Hey, how's it going? This is Melinda and welcome to my channel. Today I'm doing a review of the Past Labs INT-60 integrated amplifier. I have had the pleasure of having it in my music room for quite a while now, and I want to share with you some of the things I really like about it, what really stood out, some drawbacks, and just do a complete review. So I will leave a link below. So in the details, you can see the specifications, the pricing, everything you would want to know about this INT-60. And in the description of my video, I will also leave a list of all the other stereo equipment that I've been listening to along with this Past Labs INT-60 integrated amplifier. So let's go ahead and get started. Past Labs was founded in 1991 by Nelson Pass and became known for their Class A amplifiers. They have since expanded into preamplifiers, speakers, and other stereo equipment. And a lot of the people that I look up to here when it comes to stereo equipment, some of the legends that I've talked to, they all look up to Nelson Pass. So I think that says a lot about the quality of the company, the quality of the product, and about Nelson Pass himself. So the INT-60 offers 60 watts per channel into 8 ohms, and it is an amp that is a high bias Class AB amplifier that stays in pure Class A up to 30 watts, allowing for minimal distortion and a pure sound quality. And I will talk about that a little later in this video. It has a balanced XLR inputs as well as unbalanced RCA inputs. And I want to talk a little bit about, and of course this is subjective, I mean this whole review is subjective, right? But I want to talk a little bit about the beauty of the stereo equipment. I find that the INT-60 is very sophisticated looking, a little bit of an understated elegance. It's something that would have looked amazing 50 years ago, and I think it's going to look amazing 50 years from now. It is a classic design, and I know that the sound quality is the most important, and that's what I'm going to base my judgment on. But I will say that looks do matter. And for a lot of you who follow my channel, you know that I am on the hunt and in the market for an upgraded amp and preamp. So I'm really glad that I'm being able to listen to this Past Labs INT-60. And so let's go ahead and talk now about another aspect of this amplifier that I really enjoy. It's something small, but matters. The details matter. And I love the remote control that comes with it. For one, it kind of reminds me of maybe those early remotes that came on back in the 70s. It's very heavy, feels substantial in my hand. And unlike all of the plastic lightweight counterparts, I've never misplaced that remote. So it's very nice and well done. As well as, I have to bring this up, the weight of the INT-60. Thankfully, when it was delivered, my husband was here. It weighs 93 pounds. So my husband had to help me bring it upstairs. And also, when you are dealing with stereo equipment like that, you want to have something extremely sturdy, a really sturdy shelf or a piece of equipment that's going to hold a 93-pound piece of equipment. So keep that in mind if you are on the hunt also like me of getting a new amp and preamp. This is a tank. It weighs 93 pounds. You want to have something sturdy to put it on. And also, I want to talk a little bit about the sound, to my initial impressions. This is a very neutral amp. There is no coloration. There is a little bit of warmth when it comes to the sound of this amp. And I will talk about that a little later in this video with an example. A lot of people who talk about this amp say it has a little bit of a tubey sound. And I've never experienced in my home or for a long period of time tube amps. I'm hoping to change that. I'm hoping to experience that before I make a final decision on my upgraded amp and preamp. But I can understand what they're saying when it comes to a tubey sound, because there is a little bit of a warmth when it comes to this. So now let's talk a little bit about the music, because I played, of course, my test records. You know, those certain records that I love to put on, grab first when I get a new piece of equipment, something I'm wanting to test out. You all probably know, if you follow my channel, I love the Analog Productions Ted Nugent. The song Stranglehold at 45 RPM is one of my test records. The MoFi of Alan Parsons' Eye in the Sky, the MoFi of Santana's Abraxas. I played all of those, and wow, I was amazed. It sounded great. This Past Labs INT-60, along with my other stereo equipment, worked very well together, and I was very pleased. But what I want to talk to you about today were the surprises. You know, just from everyday listening and sitting back, I want to talk to you about 3 records, and there were many, but these 3 records had some aha moments for me with this Past Labs INT-60. Let's talk about the first one. This is Neil Ardley, Harmony of the Spheres. This record originally came out in 1979. It is very hard to find. It's rare. And it has recently been reissued by Analog October. I should say that. Let me make sure I get that right. Yeah, Analog October Records. I will leave a link below so you can check it out. And I highly recommend giving this a listen. I put this one on. It has everything about the 70s and the 70s sound that I really, really love. It has a jazziness. It has a groovy guitar. It has synthesizers. It sounds a little spacey at times, because Star Wars movies had really taken off at that time. And I really enjoy this record. So I put it on, and I was just sitting back with my eyes closed, relaxed, and I was startled, because all of a sudden, with the Past Labs INT-60, this 3-dimensional sound really came towards me in a way I'd never heard it before. In fact, after a couple of minutes of listening to it, I got up and just turned the record, started it all over again, because I wanted to hear it. I was surprised with this record, when the Past Labs INT-60 was included, the 3-dimensional sound. The soundstage was huge. There's a lot of music going on here, and I love the separation of the instruments when it comes to synthesizers and the groovy guitars and all of the details of that record. I was amazed. I thought, wow, this is really, really good. And I also loved the lower end and the bass. I really feel like the INT-60 and my REL S510 subwoofers worked beautifully together. So this next record I'm going to talk to you about, you're going to be like, oh my goodness, Melinda, you're doing a review and you're talking about this? Hear me out, okay? This is a record that I've been listening to since I was 14 years old, and I can honestly tell you, I have listened to this record on every format and every piece of equipment, stereo equipment I've listened to my entire life, starting with my 1979 AMC Spirit with this cassette in my car, up until now, with all of the stereo equipment I've had at this very moment. So I know this is not exactly what a lot of people talk about when they're talking about reviews, but this is Billy Idol's Rebel Yell. This is an original. It was recorded very well. I don't know why this hasn't been made into an audiophile record, but it doesn't matter. It still sounds very good. And I was amazed when I put this one on and the INT-60 was added to my stereo equipment. You know, first we go into Rebel Yell. Again, the low end of it, the bass, incredible. I heard thunderous drums, unbelievable. There's a song on here called Daytime Drama, where there's a lot of guitar playing. I heard more details and more guitar panning on that song than I've ever heard before. It was a real eye-opener. But I'll tell you, the true magic was on the song Eyes Without a Face. I've heard that song a gazillion times, and like I've said, every car I've ever owned, I've played that. Every piece of stereo equipment and records and compact disc, everything. I, for the first time, heard a bass guitar groove and guitar work I had never heard before on the song Eyes Without a Face. That was a true aha moment for me. That was shocking. And also, there's a song called Catch My Fall, where I was absolutely stunned by this clear, crisp saxophone playing. And I really loved the deep voice of Billy Idol. And it was so rich and it sounded so great, just center of the room. So a record, Billy Idol Rebel Yell, that I've been listening to since I was 14 years old, there were new revelations. I mean, I really can't say that very often, but with the INT-60 included, it was true. And also another record that really had an aha moment, and this is where that little bit of a warm sound to this amplifier comes into play. This is Helen Mural. Now this was recorded back in 1955, but I have the more recent Analog Productions version of this record. Helen Mural's voice, dead center in the room, that warmth really created a cozy effect when listening to this and other jazz records with the INT-60. I heard a clean, clear, crisp trumpet that I really enjoyed, more than I've ever enjoyed this record before. It really brought a warmth, a depth, and a clean, crisp trumpet that I've never experienced before, and it really, truly, really makes my jazz records sound absolutely amazing. So I was really impressed with what I was hearing with the Past Labs INT-60 integrated with all of my other stereo equipment. Now, having said that, there are a few drawbacks, and some of these drawbacks aren't a big deal to me, but might be to you. So I want to share them with you. For one, this is a Class AB amplifier that idles in Class A. So it takes a lot of electricity and it can warm up. So you want to make sure that if you have this INT-60, you shut it off after every single use. You don't want to burn that electricity. So for me, I'm already in the habit of doing that. It's really not a big deal to me. But, you know, for some of you who may like to leave your stereo equipment on, keep that in mind. And because you have to shut it off after every listen, or at least I do, the volume automatically goes to 0 and the input goes to number 1. So input 1, volume 0. The volume aspect bothers me a little bit. Now, if I was in a car, I would appreciate that feature, because I can't tell you how many times I've gone back and started up my car only to be extremely startled by how loud I was listening to the music the time before. You know, sometimes a great song comes on and I crank it up, shut off my car, and then I'm, you know, startled later. I don't really feel that in my music room necessarily. And I can't tell you how many times I turned on and put on a record, sat down in the couch, and was waiting for it to start when I realized I'm not hearing anything. And I would look at my stereo equipment and then I'd realize I forgot to turn on the volume of the amp. You know, I have pretty much a specific number when it comes to what I listen to, give or take a few decibels. I would rather it just automatically goes to that volume. Not a big deal. And I imagine if I bought this INT-60, it would become muscle memory to turn that volume up. But I wanted to be honest with you, that happened a few times where I would sit back and hear nothing. Not a big deal, but just wanted to let you know about that. And also, this is purely an amp and preamp with no extra frills. It does not have a phono stage input, and it doesn't have a DAC. No big deal for me because I already have those things. But if you don't and you're wanting them built in, the Past Labs INT-60 doesn't have those. But what it does have is an amazing amp and preamp. And yes, I have been totally enjoying my listening experience. The music that I've listened to has been elevated, no doubt about it. And I know a lot of people love the specifications, all the details, the cool features that an amp and preamp can add. For me, it really is a question of whether the amplifier just really can draw me in and hear details I've never heard before, bring me closer to the music. You know, that Rebel Yell album is so iconic, and it brings back a million memories for me. And anytime I can hear new details and feel more connection to the music, I'm all for it. So I've been extremely impressed with this Past Labs INT-60. It is definitely on the list for me. It is a contender. I still have a lot more to explore. Like I've said before, I have yet to experience tube amps, and I really want to do that. And I want to be able to make a decision. And of course, it's going to be on sound quality. Sound quality is my #1 priority. But there's also, I have to consider price. I have to consider, for me, the looks of stereo equipment. That's not as important as sound quality or price, but it's up there. And there's just a lot of things that will come in and factor in when I finally make my decision. But this Past Labs INT-60 is a contender, and I've really enjoyed it. I want to thank the folks at Past Labs for giving me this opportunity to be able to have on loan this beautiful piece of equipment. And also, if you enjoyed this video, let me know what you think. Are you a fan of Past Labs? Do you have a favorite amplifier, preamplifier that you love? If you enjoyed this video, please subscribe to my channel because it really helps. Hit the like button and the notification bell. Most importantly, thank you so much for watching, and I will see you next time. Take care. Bye-bye.